Yo, what's going on? I'm Marcus. Hey, I appreciate y'all tuning in. You're at the channel, The Debt Free Dad, where, as always, we're giving our financial takes, topics, talking on finances, things that impact finances, the economy, and sometimes, as always, we're giving our financial takes, topics, talking on. I got a little feedback. Impact finances, the economy, and sometimes that was weird. That was weird as hell. I got a little feedback. Impact finances, the economy. That was weird as hell. All right. I think we're good now. I don't know. For some reason, I had another window open. But essentially, like I said before I was rudely interrupted, I'm going to have to edit that out. I'm going to have to edit that out. But we're giving our financial takes and topics, on various things that could impact your finances. Now, I always got to get a disclaimer. I'm a licensed attorney, but this isn't legal. This isn't financial advice. So if that's what you're looking for, y'all go somewhere else. Don't come over here. But today we are going to have an interesting conversation with a very special guest, and we're going to talk a little bit about student loans. We're going to talk about student loans, student loan forgiveness. Was it the right move? Will it work? Did people actually deserve it? I kind of got my opinion on that. We're going to kick that around. And we also going to talk about, is college a scam? In 2022, is it really worth it? Is it really part of the great American dream that everybody was sold on? Hey, today's video, we got a special guest. Her name is Tasshia. Her channel is Major Change Group. I actually linked it in the description box. So if you aren't a member, if you aren't subscribed, make sure you go over there and subscribe to her channel. She talks a lot about financial takes, financial topics. I know she's on her own student debt payoff jersey, and she also gives a lot of free game when it comes to credit card arbitrage, what credit card benefits are out there. Like, if you want to know how to get a credit card, how to use it the right way, how to build up your credit score, definitely check out her channel. Let me go ahead and tag her in so we could go ahead and get started. What's going on? How are you doing today?
Hey there, how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. Hanging in there, chilling. I was just telling the people a little bit about your channel. So why don't you go ahead, give an introduction to yourself. Tell us a little bit about your channel, your content, where you at on social, where people can find you.
Okay, first I want to say thank you so much for having me on your channel. On my channel, the Major Change Group, really what I talk about is, one, how to get your money straight with budgeting, how to increase your credit score, and you already said it, I love using credit cards, but how to use your credit cards like a debit card to where you can, let's say, go on trips with your credit card points and things of that nature, because that is one of my goals for 2022, to be able to go on a trip using my points. But also I talk about student loans, and that's how you came on my channel, because I'm always talking about, okay, is Biden, what was he gonna do? Was he gonna forgive student loans? And it's so funny because on my hand, if you really think about it, I kind of never really thought Biden was gonna forgive the student loans, because it was like, every time I got to that part, I would like make a smirk, or I would kind of because I'm just like, Biden, he never wanted to forgive student loans, in my opinion, although I would say towards the end of his campaign, he put it in there to me just to get voted in.
Right.
And I didn't think that he was going to do it. And, he was talking about he was going to do it by executive order, but he's been in all this time. So then when I would make the videos, and then you would come in, and then you would always put, well, you already know he's not going to do it.
Some smart ass comment. He ain't doing nothing.
He's not going to do it. And so, I just thought it was very interesting, how the tides have turned on, what Biden is going to do.
Right. It's funny because, we talk about student loan, and in the thumbnail, if y'all looked at the thumbnail for this video, I used a picture of Biden that just looked like he was stressed out, because that's how I felt he looked when he signed the shit. I felt like he did it begrudgingly. They probably was like, come on, bro, you got to do it. Midterms around the corner. Just do the 10,000. So I agree with you. I don't think he wanted to do it, but it got done. So, hey, last week, they said, he came out and said, you know what, executive order, we're eliminating $10,000 of student loan debt. I think it was $20,000 if you had a Pell Grant. Am I correct? Is that it?
Yes.
And so So, hey, it actually gets done, but there are some questions. So, the first thing we're going to kind of talk about just some of the questions that we got as about it. So, I know one question is a tax question. Like,
Mhm.
what are the tax implications for people who, actually got this $10,000 forgiveness? Because normally, trust me, I remember once I had a credit card and I refused to pay it. I was like, I ain't paying these people. It's going to drop off my credit. And they sued my black ass. And
Ooh.
but they ultimately decided to just say, you know what? Don't even worry about the six stacks. But at the end of the year, that $6,000 counted as gross income.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of one of the questions about the taxes. So the taxes is going to be interesting. You got any take on the taxes or anything? What you know about that?
Well, from how I heard it, it was not gonna be taxable. That he was not gonna add it as income.
Right, right, right. And so yeah, I kind of took a look, and I think apparently when they did some pandemic relief in 2021, it was some statute that said like, okay, any forgiveness won't be federally taxed, but state taxes are still on the table. So I think
Mhm.
that's point number one, just from a how is it going to really work? State taxes are probably still going to be on the table because unless states come out with something specifically, and then that's problematic because if it's a red state, they like y'all paying taxes. If it's a blue state, they
Oh,
might be
look,
like,
you know what? I think that is funny, but I do want to give a shout out to Ann. Ann said I always thought he was gonna do it whether he wanted to or not. Man, he
right,
went
right,
kicking and screaming. He did not want to from the beginning. So so I was just like, okay, Biden, I see you, Biden, because I did not think I knew that he was going to extend the no student loan interest and the no student loan payment. But I'm telling you, legit, I did not think that he was going to forgive. And then once he did the 20,000, I was like, where
right.
did that come from?
Man, yeah, he still yeah. You already know my take. My general take is if you think the government is going to do anything to advance your position economically, hey, you probably barking up the wrong tree. That's my general rule. But considering that there's a strong likelihood the Democrats could probably get their ass kicked in this midterm election, I think that was the thing that kind of pushed them overboard. I appreciate
Mhm.
you, brother. The Financial Rebel, y'all make sure y'all check out his channel. Hey, he is certified financial planner, I believe, as well. But he gives good context. And like you said, it's not taxable, so that's a plus. Now, the other thing
Mhm.
that was interesting is that this is done by executive order, right? And I said this, when I was on a JT show, me and him was talking about it over the phone. I said, an executive order is like I call it weak sauce, right? Now, if you got kids in the household and mom and dad say, hey, Bobby or Timmy, you can't do this. When mom and dad agree, that's the equivalent of it being in the Constitution. You know what I mean? Like you can't change it. That's in the Constitution. When just mom agree and dad kind of on the fence, that's probably like if Congress passed it. Is a law. We could change the law, but it's still there. An executive order is the equivalent of an uncle who you haven't seen in 10 years coming to your house. And when you ask him for something, he say, go and eat some ice cream before dinner. Ain't nobody gonna care. That uncle ain't got no pull. So that I think that's a big thing just from a legal standpoint. We already know it's gonna be challenges in court because there's a lot of corporations that make a lot of money off people paying that interest. There's whole business models that are around that. But the other thing is an executive order. So when we look historically at what happened when Trump came into office, the first thing he did was overturn every executive order that his predecessor had in place. So I think that's kind of scary because it could be something that's here today, gone tomorrow if it's never enacted through some type of legislation. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's a great point. And Mommy Trader, I think we're kind of on the same wave on it. She said, until it actually happens, I'll celebrate then. At this point, it's just a promise because within his plan, he's stating that it's going to be application. It's just like already with you saying there's going to be an application process, I feel like you're trying to make it a little bit more difficult. On the one hand, you already know how much people owe, you know who got a Pell Grant and who didn't. So why don't you just go ahead and forgive it based off of that, opposed to you got it's like how many over 41 million Americans with the $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. So if
Right.
you got all those people trying to put in an application process, are they, are they going to end up having more jobs to be able to have more people to be able to get these applications in? I feel like
Right.
you're
Right.
trying to
Right.
make it a little bit more difficult by creating a application process. And then most people, are they going to put in the right information? How are they going to do checks and balances on that? Are they going to be following up? So it's just like, is everybody going to really get the 10,000 or up to 20,000 of the forgiveness? So I really kind of feel the same way. And then they're really trying to make it to where this is all happening around the time December. So it's really not going on right now. It's not going to be happening until December, probably in January.
Right. Right.
So,
Right. Yeah,
mm-mm.
there's a lot of logistical stuff that has to go on for, that's, I think that's how all legislation or they kind of think it through. They say we're going to do this, and then all of this stuff can happen on the back end that you really never thought about. I think one thing I also saw that I wanted to toss out, it said there may be some provisions. I saw a couple of articles out there where people could actually get refunds for any amount that they paid.
I did see
And
that.
so I was like, so if I had a $15,000 student loan, I worked hard to pay it off over the last 2 years, and then they gave this, I could potentially go back, have that 10,000 wipe out my loan, and get my 10K back that I paid out of pocket. So it's going to be interesting to see how they shake the tree and fix everything up. Well, this is like, let's just talk about, was this the best way? Did people actually deserve it? Because student loans are interesting and kind of weird, right? Let's just think about this, right? And you tell me if you ever thought about this, right? If I created a business, I'm like, hey, I'm creating DFD Creative Media. I got to come up with a business model, a business plan, go to a bank, show them that my business has the ability to make money so I can get a business loan. And the reason I got to show them that, because I got to pay it back. I got to show the ability to repay the loan. When I go get a car, when I go get a house, when you get a credit card, you fill out all that information, you have to show the ability to repay. Student loans are interesting because it's the only loan I've ever seen where you're given a loan based on your inability to pay it.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
So
based on your inability. So that's kind of wow.
Yes, and I was just working on a video stating that. So it's just like, okay, you're 17 years old, you're 18 years old, and for federal student loans, they're gonna give you, it could be $20,000 a year. They're gonna give you all of this money for the student loans, and on an assumption that when you get out, you're gonna make a certain amount of money so that you can pay the student loans back. They're not running your credit. You don't have to have a job. So on the one hand, I don't know that compared to like a car loan or auto loan or
Right.
business loan, they're not going to give a 17-year-old a $50,000
Right.
business loan without checking their credit or getting a cosigner.
Right.
Like that. So it's just like, on the one hand, I do think that there needs to be a little bit more consumer protections around student loans. I actually don't even think that they should report federal student loans on your credit report, because they're not running your credit for you to get those student loans compared to
That's a
with
fair
private.
point.
Yeah, compared to private student loans. Now, for private student loans, they do have to run your credit for you to be able to get those, but with the federal student loans, I don't think so. And you said a little bit ago in regards to the interest, and you see that Biden has never said anything with the interest, because they're going to make more off the interest possibly than even forgiving. So on the one hand, it's really a band-aid. Now, do I want the 10? I'll take the 10,000.
Right.
But on the one hand, that's just a band-aid, because once they start going with the interest in January, then it's just going to start eating up the payments anyway. So what, in a year or two, we're going to be kind of back where we were. So they're not really fixing the problem.
Right. And I think that's the other thing we got to realize, okay, let's talk about, do people really deserve to have their student loan forgiven? Okay. And we gonna just kick this around. Hey, we can all agree to disagree. Let's say that before we start, right? but the income threshold is for a family $250,000. Like, I mean, I can understand from the standpoint of like, you got two professionals who make over six figures a year, and you got a guy who started his own small business, graduated high school, never went to college, and ultimately everyone went. How this stuff get paid for is through taxes. So that poor guy who never went to college is going to have to pay for. He's going to have to pay through his taxes for somebody to take advantage of this loan forgiveness, and it's probably a household who makes $220,000. So
now,
I can understand.
I don't necessarily see. I don't agree with that, because I would say over half of America makes less than probably $60,000. So it's not going to be a lot of individuals that even make $125,000. So, even when the one Republican is stating, people should not be paying for these Ivy League lawyers and doctors, most of those people are not even going to be within the guidelines to be able to get the student loan forgiveness anyway. And with the student loan forgiveness, it's really going to help the individuals that, let's say, have less than $20,000 in student loans.
Right.
So those are the people that it's really going to help. And you also have to understand that just because people have student loans, it's not necessarily individuals that even finish college. And you got to think, see, a lot of people are not being able to start families, are not being able to buy houses and things of that nature. So by them forgiving, it can possibly, well, I don't know for me, because I'm always on the manage my money and things like that.
Right.
Even I'm not trying to put all the money back in, right? I'm trying to say, so, but with more individuals, because even when you consider, Dave Ramsey had a movie called the borrowed student loans,
Borrowed Future or something like that.
Futures, yes.
Yeah.
Loans, and they were, they had several different viewpoints, and they even had a teacher on there, and it's just like him. They got married, but they weren't able to have the certain wedding that they wanted. He's selling plasma. He's a teacher. He's not really making a whole lot of money. Even the two of them, they're not able to buy a house. So I don't necessarily agree that it's really helping, people with these Ivy League degrees. I don't know that it's really helping.
I'm not going to necessarily say Ivy League's degrees, but I'm an attorney, okay? And like, I put my budget out over it. I know a lot of colleagues of mine who make six figures who was like, yep, I got that 10K, and they ain't hurting at all. They take.
How did they get the 10K? When most
they may make $115,000 a year. They make $115,000. They're within the threshold to qualify for it.
Okay.
These are people who are taking 2-3 vacations a year. So again, if it's offered, take it. You know what I mean? If it's offered, take it. I think the bigger picture for me is because for all of the 10,000 and 20,000 that was wiped out just by that executive order, I bet you 50, I'm not gonna say 50, I bet you 3 times that have already signed loans that they can't afford to pay back to start school next week for college. So no matter if you do loan forgiveness now without addressing the cost of school, in 5 years, we're going to end back up with everybody saying, we need loan forgiveness again. We need loan forgiveness, because that forgiveness doesn't do anything for the people who, I got friends who got kids that start in college, and they just signed that paperwork because, socially, we just kind of trained to go to school. So I think it's a broken system. Again, I'm not saying don't take it, but I think it's if it were me, I'm nobody, but if it were me, I think a way to make that system fair would have been something to the effect of, hey, for the next 24 months, up to $20,000, whatever you pay on your student loan, we'll match you at the end of the 24 months.
Well, what I consider and what I've been saying this whole time, I really think they need to figure out how much interest has been paid and forgive that, and then start tackling the interest on student loans, because I definitely agree, forgiving the 10,000 or up to 20,000 student loans, we're going to end up back where we were before. So we gotta tackle on the front end the cost of college, and then I think the interest.
Right, right. And I think this is a point that a good point that Ann makes. Uh, Student loans are predatory to an extent, but isn't every loan? I mean, when I was in the military, a new private had to get a senior non-commissioned officer to go with him to buy a car because the car dealership will have them paying 20% on the loan. When I was in school, I can remember walking through the center and every credit card company was out there. And I know I signed up for my first credit card, and I think I got like a water bottle and a hat. I just did it for the water bottle and the hat. Next thing I know, it took me 3 years to pay off an outfit I bought to go to homecoming.
But see, look, but then this kind of goes back to what you were saying. Remember at the beginning, you stated that some credit card you didn't want to pay and then they wrote it off. You see what I'm saying? So there are a lot more protections for credit card debt, auto loan debt, and other kind of debts compared to student loan debt. And with student loan debt, you cannot discharge that
Right.
in bankruptcy. So I do feel like there are more protections, and that's why probably they wanted to tackle the student loans compared to, let's say, auto loans. I think auto loans we're 1.4 trillion in debt. Credit card debt, we're $1.1 trillion in debt. So even those debts are higher, but on the same hand, if you're willing to take a hit on your, let's say if you have your house and you have everything you want, even if you went through bankruptcy, you would still be able to keep some of those things and your life would still be okay compared to, let's say, some of the people that have a lot of student loan debt, maybe they're not able to get their lives started. Now,
Right, right, right.
so
I mean, and that's fair, and I think both arguments have some points to them that are right. Because at some point, I think there's also a little bit of accountability. Like it's when my son comes to me in a couple of years, next year we're gonna have to start touring colleges. When he comes to me and he like, oh, I want to go to this school, he already know the talk. It got to be a school we can afford. If not, you got to figure out anything over what we can't afford if you really want to go there. This is what we got. You go someplace you can afford. That's kind of what it is. But even when it comes to majors in school, right?
Oh,
I feel like at some point, like I know for me, I don't know if every school did this, and I know there are some schools out there, those for-profit schools where they wiped out all of these student loans. But for me, I can remember I was a computer science major. And I went and did some C++ courses and I got D minuses. And I said, this shit not going to work. I can't get these D minuses. So I looked at my homeboy and I was like, what's your major? He was like, criminal justice. The minute I switched my major to criminal justice, I can remember like advisors, my professors, they all were just kind of honest. Like, if you want to make money with this degree, you have to do something else beyond the bachelor's. So like you have people $110,000 for a art history degree, a drama degree. A lot of people get student loans and use it to pay for living expenses. Or I mean, I know people who got student loans and was investing the refund money and buying cars. So I mean, a lot of people get wild when you talk about the student loans. A lot of that money isn't just used solely for the cost of education, too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I really think that I know they're making a lot of changes to where now you can go to some of the 2-year colleges and you can get that for free and then go to a 4-year college. And that's what I did. I went to a 2-year college, but it wasn't free, the time when I did it. So I went to a 2-year college, but then once I finished my 2-year degree, I was just like, you know what? Most of the time, companies, they're going to want you to have your bachelor's. And then, later, it's just like, really, you have to have a master's if you want to be in management and things like that. So I ended up going back and I got my MBA in healthcare administration. But I pretty much was kicking and screaming going back to get that because I really didn't want to go back, but I knew that I wanted to be in management and things like that. And you had to have it. But, I do agree with I don't know. I kind of agree with the different majors, but then it's just like on the one hand, who's to say that some of those individuals can't, make a lot of money with those degrees? Because, even with all degrees, do you really always get out and make as much? Are you really making as much that you thought that you were going to make when you were in school? You know, so on the one hand, I just feel like there needs to be more education around going to college. And that's why I really liked that movie that Dave Ramsey did,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then they also had Anthony O'Neill, because
Mm-hmm.
pretty
Mm-hmm.
much
Mm-hmm.
there's like 30 million in not necessarily grants, but there's probably like 30 million in unaccounted for dang, I can't think of the word, but there, you know, where you can get help for school.
All the free stuff.
Yeah,
Right,
the
right,
free
right,
stuff. But
right.
you know, like most of the time, we're not gonna do our due diligence to really be able to, you know, write the papers or, you know, things like that to be able to get that money. So that's why, you know, it's so much of that money on the table. But I think with individuals, even like Anthony O'Neill, is given a different perspective. And even within that movie, while a lot of the high schoolers were stating that, you know, they wanted to go and they didn't care, even after, you know, one person, they ended up doing like a different path and they didn't go to college. But it's just like, I really want to find out, okay, here it is a year or maybe two later, where is he now? You see what I'm saying?
Right, right, right,
You
right.
know, what kind of job or how is he living? Because it's just like with the amount of rent and, you know, people getting these auto loans, you know, now you can get an auto loan for like 96 months. And
Yeah, right. Right.
you know, credit card debt, the
Right.
average person has probably over $7,000 in credit card debt. So it's just like you need to make more money. You see what I'm
Right,
saying?
right, right.
And, you know, possibly by you going to school and getting that degree, you know, possibly it can help you to be able to, you know, that's what we hope, that it's going to help you to be able to make more money.
Right, and I think that's a fair point. You know, I wanted to talk about this point. I agree that government policy shouldn't be based or dependent upon personal choices, but unfortunately, that's not the society we work in. It's the same reasons you see legislators in red states trying to pass legislation that says something like, this was some years ago. It was like, oh, if you get welfare, things like that, you have to take a drug test before you get those benefits. And it was a really big deal because they're tying in the personal choices that people make with the benefit. So, you know, I agree with that
I don't
statement.
know, but
I agree with
I
that
mean,
statement, but that's not the society we live in. You know what I mean? That's personal choices and government policy go hand in hand. But you were saying that, you know, people go to school, they major in these degrees, whether it's art history, and they think they can make some
mhm,
money. But again, I turn back to, at some point, that kind of goes into the accountability of the individual and the risk reward factor that you got to be.
mhm,
When I signed up to go to the military, I had a real unconventional route. I graduated high school. I went to school for 2 years, and I was like, I'm not getting all these loans. So I went to go to the military. When I
mhm,
went to the military, it was a risk reward of, I could go to war, but I could not go to war and get out and pay these. And so I think when you get the person who majors in art history, the person like me, my major, criminal justice, is on this list of top 15 worst majors to get in 2022.
wow,
That
really?
that was a risk reward that I took. I knew that major wasn't a major; it was a decrease in major. So I think some of it is, you know, yeah, if you want to get that drama degree and you think it's worth 70,000, or that history degree you think is worth 80,000,
Mm,
some of that is you rolling the dice saying that I'm betting on myself that it's going to pay off to allow me to at least make an income where I can satisfy that. So I think it's a little bit of risk reward that people got to take too. Here,
yeah, I mean, I definitely think so.
let me see if I could pull this up real quick. Let me see if I can pull this up real fast. Okay. 15 most useless degrees in 2022. It was interesting because I saw some of these things on the list. Like, I didn't even know you could get a degree in advertising, but that's a real thing. Advertising, archaeology, fashion design, tourism, and hospitality management. Like, and if you read the summary, communications, the summary on a lot of these things, they're
Whoa,
the
so they're saying education? How is
yeah.
that so?
It will be considered useless in 5 years. With the rise in technology and many different forms to make money online nowadays, many people believe that it is no longer necessary to go to college for a degree. Fortunately, this doesn't mean that education degrees are completely useless. There are plenty of careers that require education degrees. There are also many careers that would benefit from a degree of education, such as teacher or professor. So another, and so I saw that's mine's right there, criminal justice. Look at it. Those degrees been awarded, and that working field is just decreasing and decreasing. But one of the interesting ones that I saw, and this shows, majors that don't pay off. Look at that. Criminal justice degree gets you $40,000 a year, but people are going 120,000 in debt to get the degree.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk about that risk reward thing, me as a student, I got all this information at my fingertips. If I got information at my fingertips and I know with this degree, this is the average salary that a person in this field makes, some of that accountability and responsibility is on me to say, I may need to pursue a JD. I may need to go to law school. I may need to get a master's to be able to make more income in that range. So a little bit of it is, like I said,
well,
just
kind of back up, because see, I don't know that education, and see, that's what I'm saying. So education, and then they're stating the average makes 41,000, but you have to think about it with education. Most of the time, they're not even going to give those educators a job without having the education, and then most of the time they have to have a ED or EDS, or most of the time they are going back to school to get those extra degrees. And I really want to know, what's the average teacher's student loans? I'm pretty sure that it's over what, $80,000. It might even be $100,000. And then when they get out and they start teaching, they're averaging $40,000.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's a cold game, and I know even where I'm at in
social work. I think social work is very important.
Right. Yeah, all jobs are very important. To me, all jobs are very important, but society doesn't see it that way. You know what I mean? I think let your trash man that come for a month and watch how many people get sick and end up having to go to the hospital. But society doesn't view a trash man the equivalent of a doctor. You know what I mean? Even though both jobs are equally important to me. You know what I mean? Your trash don't get picked up. It's going to be a lot of salmonella going on in your neighborhood.
Right, and then dental hygienists, like I love my dental hygienists. They need to go to school. So that is a very important degree.
And I saw this one, computer science. I saw this one and I thought this one was actually interesting because with computer science, when I saw that up there, I remember when I first started, young as a young defense attorney, I had an intern and he ended up going to NC State, got a job at Google. I mean, doing great. And he was telling me now, he was like, man, people don't need to have computer science degrees no more.
Well, now they can get all the different certifications.
Yeah. Go to a boot camp or something that's 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and they got the same certification. So I think, I think we all agree, no matter whether we may disagree or whether people deserve it or not. You know what I mean? Again, if they gave it to you, I think you should take it. But there are a lot of people out there who have been in positions to pay off their loan and just haven't. There's a lot of people out there who are just making bad money choices, and that's a factor.
And that's why, especially, yes, on my channel, that's why I talk about, one, just understanding the debt that you have and making a plan. So I think that that's very important.
Right. So I think it goes back to, for me, the biggest problem over the student loans, because the reason everybody got student loans is because of the cost of college. And the reason that college costs so much is because if you come into the University of Debt-Free Dad, and I know the government is going to give you a blank check for whatever I charge, I'm going to increase my price 10% every year because I know you're going to pay it because you're going to sign that loan paperwork because you got kind of a blank check. You know what I mean? So it's just a roundabout way where, like I said, if 40 million people benefited from this student loan forgiveness, I guarantee you that probably 60 million people just signed loans to start school next month And it's going to
Mhm.
be kind of this revolving door situation that we got going on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but a lot of the colleges were actually forgiving student loans, for seniors graduating.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I thought that that was great because I really do think that there really needs to be an overhaul. I really think that, trade schools and community colleges, because what I really liked about the community college is just like, yeah, you did have to take some of the basic courses, but
Mm-hmm.
you really went straight into your major compared
Right,
to
right.
like when you go to a 4-year college. Even though I had graduated from the 2-year college, when I went to the 4-year college, they still made me take like biology and
Those
chemistry.
basic,
Yeah,
yeah.
just like I did not do good in those, because
Right, right.
that was not my thing compared to they should just make you pay for the whatever your major courses are. They should make you pay for that.
Right, right. Be able to go to the school and take a fast track just for these particular courses for that particular area. I think that'd be a good
Mhm.
idea. And I think,
But then also you have to think. I really feel like it's not really until, let's say, maybe I can't say like 2019. I don't have the data, but it's just like even corporations really value education and really value, well, I would say really value degrees. So it's just like you had to have a degree compared to now they are, especially let's say in computer science, now they're valuing, did you go to like one of those camps, or did you go, do you have certifications? But prior to that, were companies, they weren't really valuing those type of things, so you almost had to have a degree.
right, right, right. And I think that's a big part of it too, because I see some people be like, society, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm a conspiracy theory guy, but people are like, oh, society, they always push education, they push education. I personally don't think they push education. I think they push the debt that goes along with education. Because my personal view is, if you graduate, and I saw an article, it was a doctor, he owed like $855,000 in student loan debt. And you hear doctor, you like, oh, this guy probably making $300,000 or $400,000 a year. He was doing public service work, so he made like $85,000-$90,000 a year. So he didn't make enough to even make a dent in it. And I was like, because if as an attorney, if I didn't have student loan debt, if my goal was I want to do work where I represent children who are abused or in the systems, I can't do that. That's the best job I ever had, was working with children who grew up in rough situations, and I love that work. But I can't do that work because while I was doing it, I was like, this shit don't pay enough. So to get the people in the fields that they want to work, that is a factor. So
That's what I'm
it
saying.
is a factor. Like, I would love to be working with the kids, but I'd be like, hey, unfortunately, Sally Mae ain't like that job. I had to get a better job, you know what I mean? Where I was doing something that probably wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was enough to satisfy all that obligation. So society, the way we push education, and I do think it's changing. I think more
Yeah,
parents
I think it's
now.
changing. Yeah, I think it's changing now,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, now it's changing. But prior to, you could have all the certifications that you want, but they really wasn't seeing that. You really had to have a degree.
Right, right, right. And I agree. You don't necessarily need school to be. There's a difference between education and knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, and so I think that's one of the things. But I know for my generation, I never once in my life heard my mother say, when I grow up, I was going to be anything that didn't require a degree. Like, she never was like, you know what, you're gonna make a mighty good park ranger one day. And I was like, you know what, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be a park ranger. That's just kind of, it was a dream that was sold. I think it goes along with the white picket fence and the 2 cars and the 2.5 kids. Education, businesses coveted it at one point, and now it got to the point where it's like an oversaturated market, so to
Exactly.
speak.
Yeah, most definitely.
And so, it's funny. So now the big thing is going to be, at some point, because it's never addressed, or the overall problem of school costs is never addressed. It's just a matter of time. This is my thing. I feel like a student loan forgiveness of $10,000 or $20,000 without doing anything else to address the cost of education, without doing nothing to address interest on student loans for the long run, I think all you did is put a Band-Aid on a finger that was cut off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I agree.
It's going to stop it temporarily, but 5 years from now, people are going to be like, we need some more forgiveness, because the same thing happened. That $10,000, that $20,000 was just a mere speck on the full scheme of things when we step back and look at it 10 years from now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Yeah, it's a teacher shortage. Yep, and we got a teacher shortage where we at too. Teacher shortage, bus driver shortage.
Yeah, because I think it's getting so bad that now it's like you used to have like a license to be able to teach, and it's just like now it's such a shortage. You don't even have to have those licenses.
Right,
you just need to get people in there.
Right. And teachers do have a lot of public service workers, especially teachers. If you go to like underprivileged areas, I know they do got a lot of programs out there that'll forgive, educators and their student loan expenses. It's funny because teachers are like in the top 5 of everyday millionaires. It's like attorneys are up in that top 5, teachers in that top 5, and a lot of teachers don't make a lot of money. So you think like, man, why are teachers in there? Because teachers don't make a lot of money. It's one, they have those favorable programs that forgive their debt if they put in a certain amount of time. But 2, I think teachers have an understanding, probably more than any profession, of budgeting and living within their means, because schools don't have no budget. So teachers got to ration them supplies and do all of that stuff.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. But it's just like the teachers, they're being overworked and underpaid. A lot of times they're buying a lot of the supplies for the students and things of that nature. So, they really need to have the forgiveness, I think, for the teachers, and they're just getting worn down. And I feel like they're not paying the teachers what they need to be paid.
Right. Yeah, I think we agree that, hey, if you qualify for forgiveness, I heard a Dave Ramsey call the other day. I watched a Dave Ramsey clip, and it was a guy who paid off his student loan, but then he saw the article where he could get $10,000 of his money back, right? Mm-hmm. And so he calls Dave Ramsey and was like, should I take advantage of this? And like his answer was wild, because Dave was like, if you don't believe that people should have got forgiveness, morally you shouldn't take it. I was like, what? So if they offer it to you, like I said, it's very rare that the government is going to offer anything, in my opinion, that directly impacts an individual. So I think by course, whether I think you deserve it or not, you better take that shit. You better take it, capitalize. If you could get a refund because you paid your balance off, get the refund. But it would have been so beautiful if there was a way to incorporate something to impact the interest. Because I mean, me personally, I would rather have you set my interest for the next 20 years at 1.5% or 2%, as opposed to giving me $10,000 or $20,000. You know what I mean?
I would say a zero.
Or zero. I agree.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they do that, then I would really work to get it paid down, because within the 2 years of them doing that, I've finally been able to see a decrease in my student loans compared to before. Because I know there was even one year, especially when I had consolidated, that my whole payment had went towards the interest, and nothing for like a whole year went towards the principal. Compared to like last year, I had paid off my auto loan, and it was just like how that interest accrues, I was able to do it. But like with the student loan, how it accrues is just different, and it just eats it up. Right. Like when you're in school and then you finish, and then they add on that interest. So they add on the interest when you get out, but then every month after that, they're still adding interest on it.
Yeah. The interest is the pain in the ass, and is the reason that like is a clip I had. I don't think I'm gonna get to it, but it was a sister who got paid $118,000 for a drama degree, and her payment was something crazy like $1,200 a month. And in like 5 years, she paid something like $46,000 in interest, or it was like 40 something $1,000 in interest she paid. The principal didn't move at all. I was like,
That's what I'm saying.
it's
So it's just like
impossible.
on the one hand, yes, she might have a degree that's not that great, but she's still trying to she's still trying to do what she needs to do, but it's really not helping her in a way. So then why do you think most people want to default on their student loans? But then that kicks them on the other end to where they're not able to get a house, they're not, they're
Right.
not, or even if they get a car, it's really a revolving thing, because if they're interest if they have a bad credit score, then they're going to have high interest rates on their auto loans, high interest rates on their house loans, so they're getting ate up in that way. So what
Right. Yeah, it's funny because in 2021, I was like, that's when I really got tired and wanted to pay off my student loans. In 2021, my balance was $109,000, and now it's at $38,000.
That is
And
amazing.
so I was like, I remember looking at my wife and saying, this is never going to happen again. I don't think I'll ever see in my lifetime. Knock on wood, hopefully, I don't think I'll ever see in my lifetime where a loan for individual people, not corporation, you don't have to make payments and there's no interest. Like, I was like, it was like a gift from above to me. Mm-hmm. So literally in 2020, I was like, I ain't paying no student loans. Right. I'm gonna pay off the cars and the credit cards. Then after I knocked that out, I was like, I'm gonna focus, because I don't think that you're gonna have this opportunity. I will tell you, I wouldn't be shocked. This is just me, because I kind of figured they were going to extend this to 2023. I know me and you talked about it in the comments before, but I honestly wouldn't be shocked if this payment pause and interest rate freeze didn't go all the way through the general election for the presidency. Honestly, I think that would be possible, because it's a carrot that you can hold to potentially secure votes. Because I'm telling you right now, the first person who make me have to start paying interest on my student loans, it's going to be a bad day for you when it comes to voting in my household.
That's crazy. But yes, that is so true.
But yeah, I think it could last a little bit longer, because I think the reason it got pushed out now is because there's an election in November. If it wasn't no election in November, we probably all would have had to pay it. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Because it's just like Biden, like, I can't remember the year, but he's the one that made it to where you cannot discharge student loan debt in bankruptcy. So right. He's been doing bad things in regards to the student loans. So he really needs to correct his wrongs anyway. Period.
Yeah, which is a fair point. Everybody laughed at me, right? Like, hey, we're not gonna get political, but I remember at one point during the election, Trump said, y'all really gonna hire this guy who y'all want to fix everything that he broke? when he said it, I was like, yo, low key, that was a fire bar right there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even know. She said they would block your passport. They'll block your passport if you default. See, like, I know for me, I can't default on my student loans, because once you graduate and obtain a professional degree, if you don't pay that student loan off, the Bar Association will revoke your ability to practice. Dang. So, for me, that's not an option. I think that's a little benefit that they could use to entice people to pay. But the problem is people who incurred all these loans who didn't graduate, or they're driving Uber because they can't find a job in their fields. You know what I mean?
Right. Because see, that's what I'm saying. You got to think, even let's say the people that graduated in 2020, what did they do? Like, they got all those student loans, and what kind of jobs were they able to get? You see what I'm saying? So
right.
We were able to possibly, we didn't have to pay our student loans or the interest at that time, but things happen, because when the last time that happened was 2013,
right?
Even 2008 and 2009 when those people graduated, and in 2013 when those people graduated, and then now 2020 when those people graduated. Are they able to make enough, with how the the rent and the mortgage and all that kind of stuff, like most of the time they're not able to even live on their own.
Right. Yeah, because it definitely impacts. I know people right now. I got a homegirl, her and her husband. sh- They probably got, again, they got advanced professional degrees, but they got probably about 400 and something $1,000 of student loan between them. So I mean, you got $400,000 hanging over your head. Even if as a household you make $220,000, with that interest when it kick back in, it's still not going to be enough for you. So they kind of in limbo where they can't even buy a home right now because they like, we got a couple more years for the public student loan forgiveness thing. So that's kind of what a lot of people are banking on it. And I tell you, public student loan, public service loan forgiveness, that kind of scares me too, because that's only around for as long as people want it to be around. That's kind of scary. A new
Yeah, but I think
administration.
they're gonna try to push a lot more people through, October 31st of 2022, because before, it was so many rules around it, and a lot of people, it was only like 1% of people that were able to get those loans forgiven. And
Right,
so
right,
now
right,
they're making some adjustments to where it doesn't matter if, let's say, you missed a payment and
right.
things of that nature. So it's just like more people might be able to get those public student loans forgiven. So I definitely hope that that's the case, especially, like more teachers get their student loans forgiven.
Right. Because I know at one point, if you paid extra, if you were on like income based repayment, which you needed to qualify for the public service loan forgiveness, but you were paying $50 extra a month, those payments where you paid extra wouldn't qualify. So I know they did change a lot of rules to make it easier for people to qualify. And it's interesting. I was looking at this comment right here. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was applicable to Parent Plus loans. I'm not sure. What did you hear anything on that? Whether this applies to? I think it applies to certain Parent Plus loans, but it's just a
Well,
code that.
because sometimes I'm not for sure if the Parent Plus loans are private. And
Right,
if
right,
they
right,
are private, then they would not be included.
right. And that's another cold game. Let's think about it. Like,
Cold blooded.
think about it. People had federal student loans and they was like, I don't want to pay 6% interest. Let me switch it over to a private company for 2% interest.
And now they're
And
just out.
yeah, now they can't get any forgiveness or anything because they switched it. And those people actually probably should get a benefit, because if they were concerned about their APR and interest rate, they were probably trying to be, smart with how they pay it back and how they attack it.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting. I think at the end of the day, I'm not going to say college is a scam, but I will tell you, if my son comes to me and say, "Hey, I want to go to college and I really like history," I'm gonna send him back to his room and make him reevaluate some things, because I think that's something that we all have to do. Is just, what you talk about on your channel, what a lot of people in the chat talk about in their channel, is we got to make smarter decisions, and we also got to understand that to get to whatever we envision success is, it doesn't require a degree. It doesn't require you having a bunch of damn alphabets and things behind your name. Those things are cool. They can help in some professions, if that's what you really want to do. But my homeboy, I got a video I'm gonna do on how we condition to just go in debt and be consumers in this system. And it's a commercial for the it's a commercial for the Game of Life. I don't know if you remember. See, you young. I don't know if you remember a game. It was called the Game of Life.
Yeah.
And I went back and looked at a commercial for the Game of Life, and I was like, that game looked like it sucked. I never played it, but I was like, that game looked like it sucked. You could become bankrupt. You could get in student loan debt. So I was telling my homeboy about it, and he was like, man, that game is like real life. He said, me and my friends was playing it recently. He said, man, my homegirl, she went to college and tried to do everything the right way, and she was in all this debt and couldn't get ahead. I got a job right out of high school, and I was living good. So, but that's one of the realistic things that we got to push. Like, it's not about that degree. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's why I think even, let's say, in high school, they need to be teaching more financial literacy in high school, and then also talking about the jobs that you really need to be able to make a better living. maybe the trades and things of that nature to where you don't have to have all this debt.
Right,
But they
right,
don't,
right,
but they're not really doing that as much. But I
right,
think now with more people like you and people like in your comments with channels, and if we talk to kids and tell them a little bit more, maybe things can change compared to, let's say, like when we were in school, it was just either you're going to school or you're getting a job. Like you really didn't have a choice. You see what I'm saying? You had to go to school. But it's just like now you have more individuals, like even like yourself, like you and your wife have went to school, and so now you can educate your kids more,
right.
compared to when you were coming up.
Right. It's funny. I was looking at this comment. You say a kid was like, I wanted to be a YouTuber. And he was like, hey, that's like a real profession now. And people making millions. It's funny. My son, y'all may not know this. My son is, he raps, right? And so he got a feature from a relatively big artist. And, he
Ooh.
uploaded his music on Spotify. And
Mhm.
he got something like 20,000 streams in one day. It came out to like, he made like $100 or something like that. And so
Wow.
he immediately come to me and he was like, Dad, he's like, oh man, I think, like if I was, what would I go to school for if I really wanted to focus in music? And I was like, well, I would probably say marketing would probably be the best thing you could do if you want to do that. But
Maybe
I
like
said,
engineering or something because
yeah, but I was like, yeah, for music, you ain't got to do that. I know a guy on YouTube, and he talked finance too, and his channel grew from like 2,000 subscribers to 56,000, and
mm,
he got millions of streams of his music on Spotify, and I was like, everything you need is right here at your fingertips. This dude talks about everything it takes to music marketing, what a 360 contract is. So the
ooh.
knowledge is just out there. I think you made a fair point. So, I guess if we had to put a cap on this discussion, all right. Even though I think I'm not gonna say I think some people didn't deserve forgiveness. Some people who aren't budgeting properly, or some people who got the money and doing just fine,
Mm.
making 249,000, they making just under the threshold. We probably didn't need to pay their money, but if you qualify for it, take advantage of it. But don't use this as an opportunity to improve your position, whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't
Mhm.
don't, don't just take it as, okay, I had 20,000 in student loan, it all got forgiven. Now I can keep doing the same thing. Take this as an opportunity to change up what you're doing. You know what I mean? What would you say if on the way out?
I definitely agree. That's what I'm saying. I think you would have to go through like budgeting and classes and things like that, because for you to be able to get 10,000 forgiven, okay, were you saving that, let's say $260 that you would have been making on your student loans? Now that you're not doing that, what are you going to do with that money? Are you going to start saving it? Are you going to get a Roth IRA? Are what are you going to do with that money? Don't just waste it. Really try to improve your life now that you've gotten, this forgiveness.
Right, right. You got to do something better. I agree. It's funny. I'm gonna close on this story. And I don't know. I think I did a video a long time ago, year and a half ago, when I first started, about people borrowing money, right? And so if somebody asks me something stupid, I'm damn sure gonna talk about it on my channel, right? So somebody reached out to me to borrow some money, right?
Mm-mm.
And the excuse I thought was interesting, right? They said something to the effect of, "Oh, I had X amount of money to get the work set aside," but then they said, but that Netflix payment came out and messed everything up." And my reply was, you don't need Netflix. Like, I don't think you of course, if Netflix destroys your economic plan to get the work,
Then that's
it's a
horrible.
you problem. You know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
think that's what you said. We got to have some information. You got to get tired of doing a hustle. Before we dive out, sister, I appreciate you coming in, because I know it was kind of last minute. I know sometimes when you're live and in your comments, I leave some foolish, cynical comments about how Joe Biden ain't gonna. If you watching this, Joe Biden, You all right with me, man. Stay upright, brother. But I leave some snarky comments in there. But I definitely appreciate you doing this because I know it was kind of last minute, but I wanted to touch bases before it got too bad. So let everybody know before we get out of here where they can find you at, all your social handles and everything like that.
Well, again, thank you so much for having me because, I was thinking we had to do a collab soon anyway, but I always thought it was so funny, your comments on my videos. So always appreciate that. But you can find me on the Major Change Group YouTube channel. You can find me on Instagram, the Major Change Group as well. And thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. We appreciate you. Hey, everybody who tuned in, we appreciate y'all. Thanks for all the comments. Y'all be blessed. Have a good one. Hey, congratulations to everybody who looked in their student loan account and saw zero balance too. I knew that. I ain't gonna lie. I opened mine up and looked, knowing damn well I wasn't gonna get nothing. I was praying. I was like, let's see if they made a mistake.
Dang.
Yeah. Y'all take care. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Peace.
Have a good one.